Beast Titan. The Beast Titan's primary flaw is that its entire physiology is designed almost exclusively for long-range combat, making it catastrophically weak in close quarters. Its elongated arms, ape-like frame, and throwing-optimized shoulder structure allow it to generate overwhelming force when launching projectiles, effectively turning the battlefield itself into ammunition. However, those same proportions cripple its ability to react quickly at short distances. Tight turns, fast guard recovery, and grappling exchanges all work against the Beast Titan's center of mass, leaving it slow, exposed, and unable to efficiently track agile enemies once they breach its optimal range. This weakness becomes lethal because the Beast Titan lacks any compensatory defense once distance control is lost. It has no hardened armor, no balanced melee form, and no natural protection for its nape during wide, committed movements. When forced into close combat, its size becomes a liability rather than a deterrent, as every swing requires large, telegraphed motions that create openings. Zeke's reliance on strategy and range dominance further amplifies this flaw, because he rarely prepares for sustained hand-to-hand scenarios. As a result, when an opponent survives long enough to close the gap, the Beast Titan's combat effectiveness collapses almost immediately. Armored Titan. The Armored Titan's flaw is that its defining strength cripples its adaptability. The armor drastically increases durability against blades, explosives, and direct impacts, but it also adds immense weight and rigidity to the Titan's frame. This reduces speed, limits joint flexibility, and makes rapid directional changes difficult. In combat, the Armored Titan cannot react as quickly as lighter forms, meaning agile opponents can outmaneuver it, attack weak points, and control the pace of the fight. Once the Armored Titan commits to a charge or strike, it struggles to recover if that action fails. This weakness becomes lethal because the armor creates predictable vulnerabilities. To move efficiently, the Armored Titan must shed or crack parts of its plating, exposing softer flesh underneath. Every time it prioritizes mobility, it sacrifices defense, and every time it reinforces defense, it becomes slow and targetable. Skilled enemies exploit this forced trade-off by baiting movement, then striking during moments of partial exposure. As a result, the Armored Titan is constantly trapped between being too slow to defend itself properly or too exposed to survive sustained engagement, turning its armor into a liability rather than a safeguard. Warhammer Titan. The Warhammer Titan's central flaw is that its immense combat power is physically disconnected from its wielder. Unlike other Titan shifters who reside in the nape, the Warhammer's user can operate the Titan remotely through a hardened flesh cable while remaining hidden elsewhere. This allows the Titan to manifest advanced hardening constructs such as weapons, spikes, and terrain-altering structures with extreme precision. However, this separation creates a critical vulnerability. The Titan body itself is effectively an unmanned weapon platform, incapable of adapting once the controlling link is compromised. This weakness becomes lethal because the Warhammer Titan's survival depends entirely on maintaining that connection. If the cable is severed, restrained, or traced back to the user, the Titan instantly loses functionality regardless of how intact or powerful its constructs remain. The remote control design also limits responsiveness, as complex actions require deliberate formation rather than instinctive reaction. In prolonged or chaotic combat, opponents can exploit this delay to locate the hidden wielder, turning the Warhammer's greatest advantage, its distance from danger, into the exact reason it can be neutralized so decisively. Colossal Titan. The Colossal Titan's fatal flaw is that its overwhelming destructive power is unsustainable beyond short bursts. Its immense size and mass grant it catastrophic strength, extreme heat emission, and explosive transformation capability, but those same traits drain its stamina at an abnormal rate. Every movement consumes enormous energy, and even basic actions like walking or striking rapidly exhaust the Titan's muscle mass. Unlike other Titan forms, prolonged combat is not an option because the Colossal Titan begins weakening almost immediately after activation, losing both structural integrity and offensive output over time. This weakness becomes lethal because once the initial shock phase ends, the Colossal Titan is reduced to a slow decaying target. As steam vents continuously from its body, muscle tissue burns away, thinning its limbs and exposing vulnerable areas. It cannot pursue enemies, defend its nape effectively, or adapt to changing conditions once exhaustion sets in. If opponents survive the opening explosion or avoid direct confrontation early, they can simply wait for the Colossal Titan to burn itself out. At that point, its size becomes a disadvantage, trapping the user inside a collapsing frame with no means of escape or recovery. Female Titan. The female Titan's core flaw is that its versatility comes at the cost of specialization. It is designed as a balanced, adaptable combat form, capable of running at high speed, using hardened skin selectively, regenerating efficiently, and mimicking techniques from other Titans. However, none of these traits reaches the extreme effectiveness seen in more specialized forms. Its hardening is inferior to the armored Titan's defense, its speed is situational rather than overwhelming, and its raw strength does not match Titans built specifically for power or endurance. This leaves the female Titan effective in many situations, but dominant in none. This weakness becomes lethal in high-level confrontations because adaptability cannot compensate for hard limits. When facing a Titan that excels in a single domain, the female Titan is forced into reactive play, constantly adjusting rather than dictating the battle. Its reliance on technique copying and situational hardening also consumes stamina rapidly, meaning prolonged engagements drain its effectiveness faster than more focused forms. Once exhausted or cornered, the female Titan lacks a decisive advantage to turn the fight, making its balanced design a structural disadvantage against enemies who are optimized for one brutal purpose. Jaw Titan. The Jaw Titan's defining flaw is that its exceptional offensive capability is paired with minimal durability. It possesses the strongest biting force among all Titans, reinforced jaws and hardened claws capable of crushing crystal structures and tearing through Titan armor. Its small frame also grants it extreme speed and agility, allowing rapid hit-and-run attacks. However, this same lightweight build leaves the Jaw Titan with thin musculature, limited mass, and almost no natural protection outside its mouth and claws. Direct hits that other Titans could absorb often result in catastrophic damage for the Jaw Titan. This weakness becomes lethal because the Jaw Titan has no margin for error. It must rely entirely on precision, timing, and constant movement to survive. One miscalculation, mistimed leap, or moment of restraint can lead to immobilization or instant defeat, especially against larger Titans or coordinated human opponents. Unlike Titans that can endure damage while adapting mid-fight, the Jaw Titan collapses once it loses momentum. Its role demands perfect execution, and when that standard is not met, its own fragility turns its speed and aggression into a fatal liability. Cart Titan. The Cart Titan's fatal flaw is that its design prioritizes long-term endurance over direct combat capability. Its quadrupedal frame, elongated spine, and specialized musculature allow it to remain transformed for months and carry heavy equipment or personnel with minimal strain. However, this same structure severely limits its offensive output. The Cart Titan lacks meaningful striking power, has reduced vertical reach, and cannot effectively engage in close-quarters combat against other Titan shifters without external weapons or support. On its own, it is one of the weakest Titans in direct physical confrontation. This weakness becomes lethal because the Cart Titan is entirely dependent on preparation and protection. Without mounted artillery, allies, or fortified positioning, it is extremely vulnerable to ambush and forced engagements. Its low profile and endurance do not compensate for its exposed nape, limited mobility options in tight spaces, and inability to quickly neutralize threats. If caught without backup or stripped of its equipment, the Cart Titan has no internal mechanism to regain control of the battlefield, turning its remarkable stamina into a useless advantage in moments where immediate power is required. Attack Titan. The Attack Titan's defining flaw is that its power profile forces constant forward pressure, even when restraint would be tactically superior. Physically, the Attack Titan is built for relentless offense. High endurance, strong musculature, rapid regeneration, and exceptional combat adaptability. However, it lacks any specialized defense such as armor, extreme hardening, or regeneration-focused traits. This means the attack titan survives not by resisting damage, but by enduring it, trading blows repeatedly and pushing forward through injuries that would cripple other titan forms. In prolonged battles, this results in cumulative damage to the nape and core body, gradually eroding its ability to continue fighting despite its high stamina. This flaw becomes fatal because the Attack Titan's combat doctrine discourages disengagement. The form rewards aggression and punishes hesitation, conditioning its wielder to advance even when wounded, outmatched, or strategically compromised. Without armor or natural range dominance, the Attack Titan relies on momentum to survive. But once that momentum breaks, it has no fallback. If surrounded, restrained, or forced into a defensive posture, the Titan's lack of protective specialization leaves it dangerously exposed. Over time, this turns the Attack Titan's greatest strength, its refusal to stop, into a self-destructive loop that burns through its durability faster than regeneration can compensate. Founding Titan. The Founding Titan's fatal flaw is that its near-omnipotent power is not freely accessible. In theory, it grants absolute control over all subjects of Ymir, including memory manipulation, body alteration, and command over pure Titans. In practice, this power is sealed behind strict conditions. A wielder without royal blood cannot activate the Founder's abilities on their own, reducing the Titan to a largely symbolic form with no direct combat specialization. Even with royal blood involved, activation often requires physical contact and precise circumstances, making the Titan's power unreliable in real-time battle scenarios. This weakness becomes lethal because the Founding Titan is overdependent on external factors. Its effectiveness hinges on lineage, cooperation, and timing, rather than the wielder's own combat skill or instinct. If those conditions are not met, the Titan offers no defensive advantages, no enhanced regeneration, and no inherent battlefield dominance. In moments where immediate action is required, the Founding Titan's power ceiling becomes irrelevant because its access restrictions prevent it from responding at all. As a result, the most powerful Titan in existence can also be one of the most helpless when its activation requirements are not satisfied.